You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Kurlop and Ziana McIntyre.
What's going on, everyone? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Kurlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Ziana McIntyre, aka Z Money. How you doing today, Z?
I'm doing great. And you know why I'm doing great? Because I just put an offer in a house and I haven't done that in months. I'm
Oh,
hungry. Yeah,
you
it's
eating?
going to be
What
great.
do you think? Where's the
Yeah.
house? What's it
Oh,
look
I
like?
think we're going to get it. It is a short-term rental potential in Washington State. So every time I'm like zooming around on the map, I feel like I'm Brandon Turner. I'm like, where did Brandon live over here? So
What?
that's been kind
Wait,
of fun.
Washington State. Okay, look, what? Why
Yeah.
Washington State? What's up there besides just
Um,
rain and Seattle?
Well, moody cabins that look like, I don't know, they look like Twilight. And you've got like beautiful, the sound is incredible. So there's like so much water everywhere and like kayaking. And when global warming happens, you'll have something to drink, right? So I feel
There
like
you go.
I get kind of scared about buying properties in places where you're like right on the edge of the water, like Florida or places where hurricanes could just wipe them out. So I feel pretty good about up there. Yeah.
Nice. How far is that
Yeah.
from like northern Idaho?
I don't know, but I know it's about an hour and a half from Seattle, and so it would probably be a little bit of a trek. But I
Okay,
see where
like
you're
four,
trying to
five
go
hours.
there.
Yeah, I was gonna see if
Trying to
we
get
can
to
maybe
my
hang out.
cabin.
Yeah,
I love it.
well,
I
if we can
love
hang
it.
out at your cabin, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. You'll have to keep us posted
Yes.
on your house. But that's super exciting. We are starting to get the itch too. We're looking in Idaho and in Denver and a couple different places to maybe get some sort of Airbnb combo. Maybe do some like land and throw like a tent. What do you think about that, Z? Like, let's say I want to buy a piece of land and throw like a tent or a yurt up on it as like an Airbnb. Think that would do well, or are we just out of our mind?
I don't know. I mean, people do it, right? But if you've never done it before, how are you going to do it well? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd say partner with somebody who does it. That's a good way to go about it. But I don't, I don't like buying land. So maybe that's just my mistake. But you don't have utilities and you have to figure out water, and it just seems like a big pain. So,
Hmm.
meh, that's
Fair
what I
enough.
think.
Just wanted to get your perspective.
Yeah,
We may or may not
totally.
listen
But
to it. Yeah.
yeah. I know a lot of people
um,
want to do it with tiny homes and stuff, but like my sister lives off grid in her tiny home in Maui, and it's like they have a composting toilet. So like are you going to have somebody like taking out somebody else's composted junk? That's kind of intense. And then they have propane and then, they're off grid, but there's just not that many things. So it's more of an experience where somebody has to be a little bit rustic to stay there. It's not really a
for sure.
pampered stay. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting the luxuries. You're not living this luxurious human life that we now have. But hey, rewind it
Yeah.
300 years, and that's how everyone lived. So, what you want?
Sure.
Speaking of trashy into classy, we got Matt Amabile on our show today, and he has a tremendous story, which I am like semi obsessed with because like he just like full out sent it, right? Started off with a monstrous quadplex of a project, made him like fearless basically, and now he's just like crushing it. And he's got what like 23 doors and hopefully 25
Hmm.
by the next in the next month or so.
Yeah. I think it's a really inspiring story. It blew both of our minds towards the end, so definitely listen all the way through. But really fun to listen to, and we get a lot of laughs in there, so check it out.
Woohoo! Let's bring him on the show.
Hey guys, if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent like us, you might want to go to Kaplan. That's where I got my license, and I found that they made all this really dull information actually kind of interesting and very memorable. So if you're looking at getting your license, see if they have your state. They cover a lot of states, but not all of them. And if you want to get a little discount, use our code INVEST2. So the word invest and the number 2. Thanks, guys.
Matt Amabile, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today? Did I say your name right?
You got it right. I'm doing great, Craig. Thank you. Z Money. Nice to meet both of you.
Nice, man.
Nice
yeah,
to have you.
We've been chatting back and forth on Instagram here for some time now. And I've kind of been following along with your story. So it's awesome to finally get you on the show and hear a little bit about it. So why don't we take it way, way back to when you first heard about financial independence? Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, so it really all started, I went to college. I went to Rutgers University, graduated there with a supply chain degree, came out with a job making around $55,000. I had some debt in my name at that point, and I was sleeping on my cousin's couch. And then all went down. I was basically waking up 5 a.m. every day, going to the city, working this job, making $55,000. And my girlfriend breaks up with me. I'm miserable. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. So I just start reading. Money was what was keeping me sleeping on a couch. So I looked up the best personal finance books. And the first 3 that I read in this order were Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rental Property Investing by Brandon Turner, and then House Hacking, written by yours truly over there.
That's a great order, by the way. If anyone's going to read the first 3 books, that's the first 3.
Yep. Yeah, so that got me interested in financial freedom, and I started meticulously saving from there and working on getting my first house hack.
So how did you pick up Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Like, did someone recommend that to you, or were you just like Googling personal finance books?
Yeah, that was all through Googling. I just Googled what is the best book that can make me make money.
Okay, perfect. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, obviously such a iconic book, and that's the way it goes. And that shifted your mindset, right, from being a worker to being like maybe a thinker. And how do you achieve this goal of financial independence? So you read these 3 books. What do you do next?
Yeah, so next I actually started looking for jobs. So the next book I read was actually Set for Life. And Scott goes through in there. If you work a sales job, it's performance-based. You can increase your income. So I started looking at ways to increase my income. I switched jobs to a job that was closer to my family. I moved home, lived with my mom, and started looking for house hacks in that area. Because where I was in New York City area, way too expensive for me. I started looking at house hacks near my hometown. I partnered with an agent that was actually my dad's high school friend. And we ended up finding a great property for me to offer on.
So I'm curious about this agent. Because you went with a family friend, did you feel like they knew about investing and that they could help you with running the numbers, or were you really on your own about that one?
No, I was on my own about that one, and that's where like the education from Rental Property Investing, that book by Brandon Turner, and using like the Bigger Pockets rental calculator, doing all that practice, looking up properties, running analysis, came into play. So once this agent brought me a property to the table and I could run my analysis, put it through Rentometer, put it through the Bigger Pockets analyzer, and saw it was a good deal and jumped in.
So did you feel any sort of like reservations about your numbers? Like, were you thinking, hey, am I doing this correctly? Like, I think sometimes it's good to have that, that sounding board if you've got an agent that is familiar with investment property. I know I leaned heavily on that. I know a lot of people do. So like, how did that go for you?
Yeah, so my agent did have some investment property behind him, but really it was about me being solid with my numbers. And I came in on this thing. I actually offered, this was in May of 2020. I offered. It was a foreclosure property. It was up for 125. I actually offered 155,000 because I just knew that the numbers would work so well, and I wasn't scared to jump in there.
I'm sorry, and this is in New Jersey?
Yeah. Yep.
You can get properties for 155,000 in New Jersey?
You can get properties for 155,000, and this is a 4-unit property as well. But there was a lot of work and a lot of heartache that went into this first deal.
Okay, it sounds like we're going to definitely need to dive into this. So first, before we get into all the work and stuff you did, you buy this what was the foreclosure process like? One, just in general, but two, through COVID, because you were like in the heat of COVID in May of 2020.
Yeah, basically just made an offer. I didn't follow it. I was like, I'm going to let the agent do his thing. He knows how to handle this. So I made an offer. I told the agent I want to offer this. He actually came back to me and said the bank said no. And then a month later, the bank comes back and says that the other buyer dropped out and they'll accept my offer since it was a FHA loan. I guess they didn't want that to take so much time. But then, COVID. So I got my offer accepted. COVID started delaying things, which was good for me because I had no idea how to close on a property. And it ended up taking me, I think, like 3.5 months to close. And within that time, I actually told the bank, I was able to do my due diligence, and I told the bank that I wanted an extra $20,000 off the property. So after my offer was accepted, I actually got it brought down $20,000.
So I'm curious what would have been the normal term, because I have a property under contract now in New Jersey that is a referral, and I was really surprised that typical to New Jersey, I learned, was like 60 days or no quicker than 45. And in Colorado, we can close in 10 days if it's cash, so we can do it so much faster. So I was curious how much delay there was there.
Yeah, honestly, I think it probably could have closed way quicker than I did it. I had no idea what I was doing. I was frustrated with all the documents they were asking for, and I kind of slowed the process down myself. But I'm sure you can. If you're closing cash and you tell a bank you could get it done, you might be able to get it done quicker.
So you said you went ahead and negotiated this thing down from 155 to 135. Like, how did those negotiations come up, and what power did you have at that point so that you could negotiate?
Well, at that point, so I was already 2 months into when my offer was accepted. So the bank has just been sitting there with hoping to close on this thing for 2 months, and I just basically went in and told them that I wanted more equity in my property. So in the property to close, after we got some appraisals back, and they said, okay, we'll reduce your purchase price by $10,000. But then later down the line, I didn't want to put so much money in to actually close on the property, so I negotiated another. I asked for $10,000 off of closing costs, like basically as a bank assist, seller assist, and they granted that too. I think it actually ended up being like $8,500 because they couldn't give me the full $10,000.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's something you can do with banks, but I imagine that in today's market, being just a seller and a buyer, they would not do that. So it's really cool to be working with a bank. Yeah. Craig, have you done any foreclosures? I have not.
I have not done a foreclosure. No.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious how they're different,
Yeah. One thing I want to mention really quick before we move on to that is that your timing was also impeccable, right? I think the bank was scared as hell going into COVID that they would never be able to offload this property. The whole economy was in the tank. And so perfect timing that you took advantage of, and call it luck, call it whatever you want, but you were there ready at the right time. So I just want to throw that out there as well. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the foreclosure process too.
Yeah. So basically, the foreclosure process honestly was similar to a normal purchase. On my side, I had my title company come in, I had my attorney come in. They started dealing with the bank's attorneys, and from there it was a pretty smooth process. Again, I was kind of the one who delayed it because I had no idea what I was doing. And so the FHA actually delayed it as well too, right? Because I had to get an FHA inspector into my house. We had to lay out a whole plan. This is a full gut renovation. We had to lay out a full plan for this property, as well as a budget. And then I had to go find contractors and get my contractors in place and approved by FHA for a $120,000 renovation. And this all had to be done within the closing period. So for me as a brand new investor, that happening in 1 month, 2 months just wasn't possible.
So did you do the 203K loan?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And so can you just tell everybody what the 203K loan is?
Yeah, so 203K loan is a renovation loan, and I'm pretty sure it's part of like the FHA, Federal Housing Administration loan. So you can put 3.5% down, but you can get the acquisition price, the purchase price of the house, and the renovation loans rolled in. So my purchase price ended up being $145,000, and there was $120,000 of renovation costs. So I got a loan basically for around $265,000, but I had to put 3.5% of that down.
Right. So that's a perfect, so that is such a good strategy to do if you're looking to get a job. And usually with foreclosures, from my understanding, is like you kind of have to buy them cash, right? You're buying them at the courthouse steps or an auction. And so how are you able to skirt around that?
Honestly, I don't know, and this is slight news to me, so I should check in on it. But what I think actually is that they had it for $125. I offered $155, but they rejected it at first. So maybe that was a cash offer that they were hoping was going to come to the table, and maybe mine was the only other offer that actually existed, and maybe that's how I got it pulled off.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, you bought this place for $145. You get a $120,000 rehab. So your total purchase price, or your total loan amount, is $265 minus 3.5%, whatever that is, maybe like $260. And so, like, how does that process work in terms of like how much more of a pain is it to do the 203K loan versus the FHA because of like all of the paperwork and stuff you have to do?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning process. Like, just bringing in the inspectors and going through all the FHA guidelines. The thing is, you have to check a lot of boxes, and there's a lot of different contractors that are involved in this: plumbing, HVAC, electrical. Everyone needs to be licensed. Everyone needs to be on their game, filling out permits and getting licensing, and basically setting everything up with the FHA. So it is a pain. And then you have you have the town inspectors who come in and inspect, but you also have the FHA inspector who makes sure that everything's getting done to the bank's level.
So would you do it again? Like, it sounds like a huge project to take on for your very first investment. For people that are listening, are you going to recommend that?
It was huge. It was hard. But I am and it took, I didn't say this yet, but it took 1.5 years for me to finish up this project. And yeah, I could have been sitting on a lot of debt or paying a lot of debt that whole time. But luckily, again, I got in at the right time. Took advantage of COVID forbearance, and it didn't affect my credit. I was able to modify it, move all those payments to the back of my loan. Wow. I would 100%. Awesome. I would do this 1,000 times over because it's the biggest learning lesson of my entire life, and it's propelled my real estate investing career forward. Now everything else I do is pretty easy.
Yeah. Do you think that today you would be able to get contractors to do the 203K loans? Because I've heard time and time again that contractors hate doing paperwork, right? That's why they like to work with their hands. They like to be in, punching nails in and doing whatever. Like, I'm just shocked that you were able to get all these guys lined up and to do the paperwork for you.
Yeah, it was a pain, and that is why it took so long to close on this. I think today there's so much work that contractors have that it it would be very, very hard to get somebody to do this. And I actually went through over this 1.5 year period. I went through 3 different contractors and had to get them all set up with FHA again.
And so, do you have a job during this time?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so you're working a full-time job. I take it you're not doing much of the hands-on work yourself. You're doing that with all the contractors. And how does that work? Like, how are they getting paid? Right? Is the bank that you got your loan with paying them during milestones, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have the FHA inspector. So the contractors do the work, and you're allowed 5 draws throughout the entire FHA process. If you do more than 5 draws, you pay, I think, an extra $500 per draw. And they come in, the FHA inspector, they take a look at the house, they see the quality of the work that was done and how far along in the project are, and they decide how much money the contractor gets. So that was a big problem actually throughout, because some contractors thought that they should be getting more money from the bank, and the bank didn't think so. So I had contractors leave. I had to shell out some of my own money at times to get the job done.
Man,
Right. So
that's a lot.
I just want to echo that, like, people talk about the 203K loan like it's this like God-given gift to, right? Like it's really like it can be great, like in your scenario, like there are a lot of positives, but like there's also a whole lot of negatives where like, hey, you're funneling money out on your own. No one ever talks about that. Hey, all of the paperwork and all the stuff that the contractors have to do, which they hate doing, they don't like to do that. So then they walk out and you got to find new contractors. So doing one of these loans, like, sure, you can do it, but the project might extend and all that. Z, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I'm just curious. So, did you do your unit first so that you could live there and then start doing the others, or what was kind of the process? Was that the last unit?
It was actually what I was hoping to be able to do, but
yeah.
Little did I know, jumping into real estate, that this property was condemned, and you cannot live in a condemned building until every single unit it has their certificate of habitability. And my town just tends to be very, very tough with getting the certificate of habitability. So taking it from uninhabitable and condemned to livable and modern and new was a process. And I didn't get to move in for a 1.5 years.
So if you've moved in after a year and if you don't have to move in after a 1.5 years, that basically, that gets you past the year mark that you need to do a house hack. So like, did you ever actually have to move in, or did you still have to move in for a year when the process was over?
No, I did not have to move in. But I did, because I made my apartment. It's actually where I'm calling you from right now. I made my apartment a place that I'd want to live in, and I like living here, so I did.
Hey everyone, big news. Investify has now partnered with Rent Ready. And yes, we've partnered with Rent Ready because that is the software system that both me and Ziana use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rent Ready is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now. And that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentready.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right. 50% off your first 6 months. If you go to rentready.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rent Ready. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. So why don't we get into like the actual numbers now that it's all said and done, right? So all in, purchase price plus rehab, you're in for $265. What does your mortgage payment look like? What are you getting for rents these days, and how does that look?
Yeah, so my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance every month are $1,965. I live in one of the 4 apartments, and then the other 3 apartments rent for $3,400.
Wow. So you're making $3,400 over about a $2,000 mortgage. So $1,400 over the mortgage while living for free, right?
Yes, yep.
And so what are those? Are those like 2-bed, 1-bath kind of places?
Yeah, so there's a 2-bed. There's 1 2-bed, and then there is 2 1-beds downstairs, and I live in a 2-bed. So once I move out of here, I should expect around like $1,300 for this apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're looking at
That's
$4,800 on a $2,000 mortgage. You know, you set some money aside for reserves and all that kind of stuff, and you're probably cash flowing about $2,000 a month on this one property. And so that's what like you're getting paid for all your work right now, right?
Yeah,
And do you know what? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say you'll love this one. I live in a 2-bedroom, so I put the other bedroom on Airbnb. So I've got an extra like $300-400 that comes in every month from people who just want a private room for a night, go stay there and leave.
Boom, right
Great.
there. So that's awesome, man. And so not to say that you didn't work for this, right? Like clearly it took you a year and a half, and you probably went through ripped a lot of hair out and all that kind of stuff. But at least you got paid for your reward, which is great, and you learned a whole lot. Do you know what your property is now worth after the rehab and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Roughly?
it appraised at $375.
Okay, so
Nice.
not only did you make like $110,000 just in the equity portion of that, right, over the course of a year and a half, like that's a salary for a lot of people. You also are now you got a cash flowing asset, $2,000 a month in perpetuity, which is amazing. So again, the power of real estate and the power of that first deal. And even though you couldn't do the second one quickly, as quick as maybe you wanted to, you got a killer first deal.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's another thing. Like I had to wait time to get into my next deal.
Yeah, so let's go into that next deal. I'm curious, you're still living in the first one, so what's the plan with the second?
So I actually, on the same street that I have this first one on, I've got I have a duplex down the street. That was my second deal that I ever bought. And yeah, that was a great deal. I think I bought that in June of 2021, so last year. And I basically saw it brought in around $2,400 a month. It was on the market for $160. I knew it would appraise at least like $180, so I went to buy it. It appraised at $220,000. Actually, 3 months later, I bought it hard money, and then I just refinanced into a 30-year fixed. Actually, within 3 months, I was able to refinance and get basically all my money back out of that.
Wow. So you were able to that takes some courage, right, to buy a property with hard money, because typically you need 20 or 25% down on that, plus the loan is really expensive. So how did you go ahead and front that 25% down payment?
So hard money was only 10% down. So $160,000 was it was a $16,000 down payment. Where they really get you on hard money is the fees, because I probably paid $10,000 in fees there, but there was no prepayment penalty, so I knew I could refinance and grab my money back out quickly.
And was your initial plan to rehab that at all, or did you just know that it was clearly undervalued and you could just like basically hotel it?
Yeah, that's I knew that the value was there. It was undervalued, and that's basically how I bought the rest. Yeah, the rest of my portfolio has been just finding these undervalued properties all within the same town, and doing it that way.
So how do you find all these deals? I can't imagine they're just laying around on the MLS.
So this one was on the MLS for like the first one I bought was on the MLS for 6 hours. And I got at it and like literally made that offer without even seeing it. And then I went and saw it, obviously, and did that work. And then some other properties, like I had a property with a seller that was actually under contract at one point, but I skip traced his phone number, and I called the seller, and he was in attorney review, and he liked me, and he backed out of that deal, and he came and sold it to me, which isn't I don't advocate for that, but and yeah, I've got some off market stuff coming in at this point, but most of it was actually on market, just really quick. I got to it.
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, I see deals on the market all the time. And yeah, maybe not in your direct neighborhood. So you're lucky that you live in a neighborhood that is cheaper. But I think this, like, idea that there's no deals left and you can't find anything on the MLS is BS. And people need to get that out of their heads because they're missing out on stuff without looking for it.
Yeah, and the one thing that I focused on was like the 1% rule. And like now obviously I know my market, I know the values, I know the rents, but like if you know an area rents for X, just use the 1% rule, try and find something that makes sense. And then once you find something that works with the 1% rule, do a little further analysis, but that could be a new investment property for you.
Yeah, what I like about it is, like, the 1% rule doesn't work for everybody, so people get frustrated with that. But what I like is having a really quick analysis. So for me, when I'm analyzing short-term rentals, I look at the gross numbers of what it can make, and then I know that if it's 15% of the purchase price, it's going to do pretty dang well. And so then I'll go in later if I'm ready to sort them out, and then I go in later and I do all of my numbers real. It's nice to have the quick and dirty way to look at it. So for you, it's the 1% rule. But for people, they just need to figure out what their quick and dirty is so they can sort, you know?
Yeah, because I know, like, there are very few markets where the 1% rule still works. Like, I know in Denver, you'll never buy a deal if you look for the 1% rule. What I look for is really just, hey, can I get $1,000 off my mortgage? Right? That's and I roughly know what the mortgage payment is, and that usually works in Denver. So, like, again, think your market, like Z said. Do your quick and dirty. You'll be able to analyze deals in 10 seconds. And, if they pass the quick and dirty, then you go deeper.
Yeah, 100% agree.
That sounded dirty.
Oh, Z. You gotta get your head out of the gutter.
Sorry,
I don't
guys,
get it.
sorry.
I don't get it. Can you explain?
Moving on.
I always like to make those things awkward. All right. Anywho, all right, Matt. So, you've alluded to you've got a larger portfolio, and you're kind of like the deal finder, man. Like, it sounds like from your what your strength is. Like, if you're going to put yourself in your 20%, it's finding good deals. And so, what does your portfolio look like now? And where's your passive income at, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I actually just closed today, on door number 22, and then Friday hopefully I'll be closing on number 23. And my passive income at this point with the new property I just bought, it'll be around $5,200 after factoring in capital expenditures and repairs, everything, vacancies, things like that. Dude,
that is both of us, our minds just blew, because like is this another sexual thing, Z? I'm just
no, it's not. But I'm just like, how did he do that in, like, what was it, like a year and a half? I just don't understand.
Well, you May of 2020, you finished your first one, from what it sounds like.
Okay, so 2 years.
2021.
Yeah, so I bought I only had these 4 units from May of 2020 to this place got rented out in June of 2021. So then from June 2021 to now, that's when I bought the majority of my portfolio.
Wow. And for the record, we're recording this in April of 2022. So basically in less than a year, you've gone from 4 units to 23 units, and you've got a full-time job. And so that's almost probably the most impressive part of it all. And so, like, how are you scaling this quickly?
Yeah, I think the main strategy, like kind of you hit on earlier, has been deal finding, and learning my finances too. Being able to find these properties with around like 30 to 35% equity built into them, so then I can buy the property hard money, have that money sit for 2-3 months, and then refinance right away, pull that money back out, and go buy another property. Basically, rinse and repeat.
And you're not even doing rehabs to these properties.
One of my properties I did. I put a new roof on and I put new flooring down, but that was like, it took a week. And now that I did this big 4-unit, everything else like that is, the small stuff is easier.
Okay. No, that makes sense, man. But so my question is like, do you think it's risky at all? Like, you're buying properties for what you think is 70 or 80% of value, but like, you don't really know, right? Like, you don't know what the appraiser's going to appraise at, and you're getting expensive money. Like, so how does that, like, how do you have the confidence to go about and do that?
I just look at it like I'm pretty young, and if I make a mistake, I'll just have to make up for that mistake somewhere else, and I'll take that risk. But I know 2 different appraisers in town, and they're not the ones who get picked to appraise my properties, but I actually call them prior to making an offer, and I just verify them with, like, hey, what do you think this property would be worth if you were to do this appraisal? And I'll usually average the 2 and it'll come out.
So have you had any come in low? Because I've got one right now on a house that we're helping somebody sell, and it came in really low, which is shocking because everything is selling for so high right now. And it's kind of screwing everyone. So
yeah, I had one property. I was hoping it was going to come in around 180, and it came in at 164 on the appraisal. But I was only getting, I think, 70% on that refi. So it's a difference of cashing out, like, I don't know, what is that, nine grand or 10 grand on the property, which affected the amount that I had to invest after that. But so far everything's been pretty good. Actually, the property I bought today, I'm doing this with partners. It's a 6-unit deal. I'm getting 50% equity. I know the market. I'm doing a rehab to this property. It's a $600,000 purchase. They're putting down all the money, and it actually appraised at $1 million. And we closed on this today, and so now that's my job, is like to go renovate this thing and get this thing stabilized.
Wow, that's a cool $200,000 payday for you today, right? Yeah. And not to mention that when you increase the rents, and this is a commercial property, right? So it's valued differently, right? Yep. It's net operating income divided by the cap rate gives you the what it's worth. And so just by increasing the rents by $50 or $100, right, you're going to be adding a few zeros to your payday. So like that right there is the power in commercial, which we could do a whole different episode on. But that's awesome, man. Like, I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. And that is like, now that my analysis in the past, like before it was questioning, like, is my appraisal, are my assumptions correct? Is the appraisal going to come in at this rate? Will I be able to cash out? But now with commercial, I'm moving more to like 5-unit, 6-unit, 8-unit. It's more predictable because I can base it off of income. And now it's like, all I have to do is analysis. And obviously you want to buy a good property so you're not having big capital expenditures and, repairs, things like that. But it's actually easier to do that analysis for me.
Yeah, because there's no arbitrary, right? Like,
no.
What's net operating income? What's the cap rate for the area? It's a simple division formula, and you got your value. And so that's awesome, man. One question: if people wanted to do what you're doing on the single family level, kind of where you started out, it sounds like you want to go more commercial, which I totally understand. It sounds like one of your like secret ingredients is just getting to know appraisers, and maybe you pay them $50 every time you call them or something, right? Maybe you got a good relationship where you don't have to do that, but like it's still worth that, in my opinion. Where would you go to find an appraiser to like, network with and do this for you?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Luckily, my dad, his real estate agent that my dad hooked me up with one appraiser, and then that appraiser hooked me up with another appraiser in town. So I think if you asked the real estate agent, they could probably tell you the last person that appraised a property in that town, you could go talk to that appraiser and just ask if they know anybody else in the area that would be willing to give a new investor. That's what I always use. Like, I'm a new investor and I'd really like your help. And see if they'll help you out. But yeah, like pay them $50 and get a quick idea on that.
Yeah, I love that. Right. So your network is always going to be your best frame of reference to get introduced to people. But if not, you should be joining your local RIAs, joining the meetups. Ask your lender if they know any appraisers. Your lender will probably know them more than your real estate agent, but your real estate agent may know some too. So ask both. Ask your agent and your lender. And I think that's a great start, because that seems like the secret formula right there, is like get an appraiser's opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Knowing the values.
So you kind of hinted towards moving towards commercial and bringing on partnerships, but where are you trying to go with this? I like to think about goals and not just collecting more and more and more. Do you have a cash flow number, or do you have some kind of thing you're striving for?
Yeah, so I do have a cash flow number. I want to get to 10,000 every month, but I actually have an overall goal, and it's with this town. So I grew up in this town for the first 7 years of my life, and my parents, we moved away because it just wasn't a good area. And it's cleaned up over the years, but ever since I'm living here, I moved back, I'm making connections in the town. I kind of want to be the guy that buys these properties up and fixes them up and raises the standard of living and makes it like a good area again. So that's like what's been exciting me about this area.
So you want to be like the mayor? You want to own the town?
It would be cool. It's actually one of the strategies, and like Craig hit on this, like your network. One of my first things I did when I bought this property is I found the mayor of the town on LinkedIn, and I reached out and I said, I just bought this property and I'm trying to clean this up for your town. And he reached back. I showed him the property when it was all done, and now we'll go out to lunch every now and then. So he really appreciates what I'm doing, and networking has helped me out there.
You're going to be taking this job. Are you going to rename the town to Amabileville? Yeah.
Amabileville. That's funny.
Yeah, we're all going to have to visit Amabile, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Love it. There's a town for sale actually in Colorado, which is so funny. I don't know how they did that, but I guess they got enough of the properties to sell. So if you have, $6 million, you can buy an entire town. So that's kind of cool.
Wow.
Huh?
That is cool. And I was actually like literally thinking that the other day. I was like, what if I owned this entire town? Would I just be able to, I could sell it all in one portfolio and somebody would technically be buying a town.
Dude, you'd be like the mayor, the secretary, the treasurer, like you just
everything.
do everything.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me, like, I think about this randomly sometimes. It is kind of stupid, but like, it's crazy that like the French gave the U.S. like the entire like Louisiana Purchase for $10 million. Think about how much land that covers. Like, even with inflation and stuff, like, holy shit,
Yeah. It doesn't even seem like it would make sense back then, but we got it.
Who knows? That's real estate, baby.
Yep.
Anyway, I think we need to head into the final part of our show. Before we get there, Matt, is there any words of wisdom you want to impart on our listeners?
Yeah. I think from my first deal, what I learned is, like, if you have the idea in your mind that real estate is what you want to do and that it's going to work, find a deal that's going to work. And even if you're doing a renovation for a year and a half, just know that it's going to work out once it's done and once you have that asset.
When in doubt, zoom out, right? I think that's like really good advice, because your problems right now are so small and they're so little. And if you zoom out to a 3, 5, 10-year time period, you're going to forget this problem existed. And if you're going to get a benefit from that problem, like your $2,000 a month and 100 and something grand that you made from the property, probably more now, that problem, it isn't so bad anymore, right? So when in doubt, zoom out. That's kind of like my mantra. Z, anything you want to add before we head into the final four?
No, I just like that you always have these like ridiculous sayings. So
What?
I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
I just like
You're
get
like
'em.
really setting yourself up to be a dad. You're just gonna
Yeah,
dadism
no,
the
yeah,
whole thing.
perfect. That and you keep the stash. I like the stash when it's strong and you dad material. You got to get your New Balances and you'll
Yeah.
be good.
Oh yeah, dude, I
Yeah.
got the New Balances already, man. I've been preparing. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready. Just wait.
Good.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, let's head into the final four.
The Final Four.
Z, kick us off.
All right, Matt. So what are you reading now since reading started your whole journey?
I'm actually reading Life in Air, like Millionaire, but life. And Brandon Turner recommended I saw, and so far it's been great to kind of open me up and zoom out, like Craig was saying, to see what, how great life really is.
Love that, man.
All right.
It's such a good book.
I'm gonna save that.
Oh yeah, you got to read that one, Z. All right, Matt. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say the best piece of advice is to invest in yourself, and it doesn't matter like how small the investment is. Like in the beginning, I was investing in myself by buying books, like one book at a time, and I was like, oh, $20 for a book. But now it's like at this point I'm getting personal coaching and things like that, success coaching, and it just kind of levels up as you level up yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're the biggest ROI investment you'll ever make is on yourself, right? One book, you're going to retain that knowledge forever. It's always going to be there. You're always going to have that, right? Like, I think books are some of the highest forms of leverage. You've got people that are literally doing years and years of studying and distilling it down into a 3-hour or 4-hour read. Like, that's amazing, right? So, love that, man.
What is your why?
My why, and it's a little weird because I don't want kids for like, I don't know, another 10 years or so, but I just see myself like wanting to be a dad with some kids and being able to spend like all of my time with my kids, playing sports, doing whatever I can to make their lives great. And I want to have that flexibility. I also want to be able to travel and go see the world in my 20s. So those two things are my main drivers.
Nice, man. How old are you now?
That's great.
24.
24? Okay, yeah, dude, you're plenty young.
My gosh,
Live-
he has
live-
as many units as years of life, almost.
Oh, is that what you're going for? More
That's
units
what,
than
so
years?
my birthday is May 20th. I turned 25, so I'm trying to get at least 2 more doors by then.
25 sitting on 25 doors. I love it. As Drake might say.
Drake reference.
Drake
man.
would never say that.
He would never say that.
He would never say that. No. You don't know Drake. All right, the last question we're going to ask you is, what used to be considered trashy but is now very classy?
What used to be considered trashy but now is very I would say the town that I live in and am investing in.
Very nice.
that.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I wasn't expecting you
Yep.
were going to go that way, but I like that.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, perfect. All right, man. Where can people find out more about you?
The main spot that I've been doing stuff is Instagram. It's just at Matt Amabile, my name. You'll probably have to look at the show notes to learn how to spell it. But that's it, really. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere.
All right, Matt Amabile on
Okay.
Instagram. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this was an amazing episode, and your growth, I think, is inspiring to a lot of people, including myself. So I can't wait to see where you're at a year from now, because at this trajectory, you're going to be a mayor at least. So
Yeah, I appreciate you both having me on the show. It's been a real pleasure talking with both of you, Z and Craig.
awesome, man. Well, thanks so much, and
Thanks
we'll
for
talk to
being
you
here.
soon.
Yeah, talk soon. Thanks, guys.
And that was Matt Amabile, and I still don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but I think I'm pretty darn close. Z,
Yeah.
what do you think of Matt?
I liked Matt. I had a great time, and I really want to highlight a couple of important things that I think came up in this show. I think that if you learn your system for your quick and dirty analysis, you can find unlimited deals, just like Matt is. I've recently figured out a really good system with Airbnb analysis for myself, and I've got like a spreadsheet of properties all over the US, just like 30 deep. And if I had unlimited partnerships, like it seems like he's got, I could just keep buying properties left and right. So that is available for everybody. You just need to figure out what your niche is and how you're going to analyze them.
And so you mentioned this 15% rule, which I've never heard before. So 15% of the purchase price of the property should be what your gross annual Airbnb income is. And so would you say that's a fairly good rule of thumb?
Yeah. So, like, what I want at the end of the day is to make at least 25% cash on cash. And so, a friend once told me, "Hey, what the way I look at it is for every 100,000, I want to make 20,000, which is 20%." But then when I went in there and I was digging around, I found, oh, actually, 17% still works. Oh, yeah, 16% still works. And then I figured out 15% is a really good threshold for me. So all I have to do is see the purchase price, see what it makes on AirDNA, and do 15%. It either is or it isn't, and then I don't waste any more time. And a lot, you'd be surprised, do make that 15%, which means a lot of these properties can make 25, 35% cash on cash and more. So there are lots of properties out there.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's crazy. That's honestly, that's like might be the biggest nugget you've ever dropped on this show. So
Nuggets,
not to say that you don't have a lot of
nuggets.
Yeah, not to say that there's not a lot of them, but I think that one is just I've never heard that before. So that's awesome. We're going to start looking. That opens up the whole country for you, right? Because you can do that analysis so easily, so quickly that like make sure you know your taxes and insurance and stuff, but like you can. That's awesome. I love it. Okay. Anyway, we're just gushing over Z.
One thing that's great is that it's so simple. So if you come up with something super simple, you can train a VA or an assistant to do it. And so my assistant helps me with it. And I just basically look on Redfin because I like Redfin. And I just heart different places. I favorite them. And she looks at them later and tells me yay or nay. And they either make it to the spreadsheet or they don't. So it's like you could pay a VA, I don't know, $4 an hour and have them doing this analysis for you. So if you're somebody who's wanting to do a lot of deals or look all over the US, like you just need to know your criteria.
That's amazing. I'm gonna steal that, the 15% rule. I'm totally gonna put it on like Instagram and stuff. So I hope you're okay with that.
All right. Just credit me, biatch.
I'll credit you. I'll be like, yeah, Z money. Yeah. Anyway, this episode with Matt, what did you think of it?
Dude, I already said what I thought of it. What do you think of it?
Well, I'm trying to get you to ask me what I thought of it. Anyway, yeah. So back to Matt. I'm just so impressed with how he took on this monstrosity of a project, right? With the 203K loan, which is like incredibly difficult to get done in the middle of a pandemic, which kind of helped him, but also like would probably be kind of scary. And then he just kind of like full on sent it with all those other properties, like just looking at properties, meeting appraisers, getting that value from appraisers so that he knows what the appraiser is going to come in at. So he knows if it's 70% of value or less. And that way he can easily go in, refinance it, basically burr it without doing the rehab part, right? It's like a burr with only 2 R's or 3 R's instead of 4. So like, I love that method. If you can do that method, I highly recommend it. And it's a great way to scale very fast. As you can see, he's already got, he's gone from 4 doors in like under a year, and he's only 24 years old too. So, what's your excuse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really inspiring. So I'm really glad we got to have him on the show. And yeah, I think we need to move ourselves out of here this week. Craig?
Yeah, but before we do, we need to ask you guys to please, please, please leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing on Instagram. I'm at the Fi Guy. Ziana is Ziana McIntyre. We're trying to get her to change her name to Z Money, so make sure you annoy her and message her about that. And but please, 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 we really appreciate all the reviews. So again, thank you guys all so much, and we'll see you all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.